Ooh. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's a spooky Halloween edition of Mark's Aquatics. I knocked out a couple of pumpkins last night. My daughter's got a friend coming round for a sleepover later on, and they're going to be watching that film, The Nun. So I thought I'd do that one for them to keep them up all night. Scared out of their wits. And old Freddy Krueger, you can't beat Freddy, going back a few years. Used to terrify me when I was a kid. So I thought I'd knock him out. One of the old iconic horror characters. So there's a couple of things for you to look at while we have a chat about this little shrimp tank. You can see that bit of muscle I put in the bottom now. It's got that lovely big bloom of bacteria and algae and all kinds of good stuff, and mould and stuff growing all over it, and decaying away fine. And that's going to be releasing now with that ammonia into the water. Okay, that's going to kick start the filter off. And already been a couple of days, 2 or 3 days I think, since we did this video, and I can see a little bit of algae growing on the top of the sponge filters here as well. Some on the side of the glass, a little bit growing. Don't worry about that, guys, just let that go, let that grow, let it go absolutely wild, let it get full of algae, full of everything, because as time progresses you're going to find things are going to take different transitions through different time, through different weeks. Okay, I know it looks beautiful now, it looks like you could just throw a fish in there, or you could just chuck some shrimp in there, but believe me or not, they wouldn't last 24 hours. And if it was a fish with the ammonia in the water, the gills would be burnt. It'd really damage the gills with the ammonia and mess them up, and they wouldn't last very long at all. If they did last, they wouldn't have a very nice life, because it would really scar up the gill tissue and everything. So with that ammonia, so you've got to be careful and not put anything as yet. Shrimp are highly susceptible to ammonia as well, so we don't want to be going putting any shrimp in there at this point in time. If you're looking or thinking, yes, it looks all right, lovely and clear, and but they wouldn't last. They wouldn't last only a few hours. That ammonia would kill them, and you'd find them belly up within a few hours. So it may look nice, and it's one of the oldest tricks and the old sayings in the book. Just because the water looks clean, it doesn't mean it is, and that is so true. There's all kinds of chemistry going on in that tank at the moment. Okay, like I said, as that's breaking down, that's releasing ammonia. Pardon me. Then you've got your sponge filters there, which are sucking that water in through them, up that sponge, up that tube, blowing it back out. So that, as that ammonia is now going into those sponge filters, okay, it's getting trapped in amongst that. You're going to find you're going to get the denitrification process starting. You get that nitrifying bacteria going to start to grow on that sponge, and it's going to start to feed on the nitrite. Okay, that nitrite then will be converted into nitrate later on down the line, but at the moment we've just got to let that ammonia build up, that nitrite eat that ammonia, and those levels of ammonia are going to raise right up. Okay, and then when that nitrite starts to kick in and work and take that ammonia out of the system, it's going to slowly drop your levels down, and then you're going to find out they're going to slowly, over a few days, they're going to start lowering down out of the way. That is the denitrification process. This is what happens. This is how all these little bacteria start to grow. They're also growing on your glass, on the stones, on the substrate, on the wood, plants, everything you see in there. Okay, bacteria is going to be growing now as that breaks down. Because we haven't started this off with any other media like cycled media, I mean, if you've got somebody with a sponge filter that's already cycled, you could do is you can get a filter sponge and you can puff it out in the tank like that, and that's going to release billions of bacteria into the water from that sponge, which will then colonize the new bacteria, the new filters. Okay, so that does speed things up, but we're going to go on a new filter, a new setup where everything is just starting from fresh, just as if you were going to do it at home and you haven't got a friend who's got filters or some substrate you can use. In other words, sand or rocks and things that you can put in, any decor like a piece of old bogwood which is covered in the bacteria, just to give it that kickstart, you know. That's what we're going for at the moment. So like I just said, you've got that releasing ammonia. Okay, that's going to get sucked through them sponge filters and in the water column. That nitrite is going to be getting higher, levels are going to be higher to consume the ammonia which is being produced. Okay, then after a few days, a couple of weeks I should say, you're going to find that nitrate is going to start to drop as well, okay? And that's what we want. Like I said, you're always going to have, that's why you've got to do a lot of water changes with sponge filters, because you're not going to get rid of that, you're not going to get that complete cycle, as it were, like you would if you had a canister filter with some media in, and it's going to build up that, over a couple of months, you're going to build up that that other type of bacteria that we like, and that is the anaerobic bacteria, and that's the one that leaves deep in and doesn't need the oxygen to survive, like the aerobic bacteria does, okay? Aerobic bacteria needs air to survive, anaerobic bacteria doesn't need oxygen to survive, and that lives right deep in amongst your substrates, and that's one of the reasons why I put a deep sand bed into this tank, because deep sand bed filters, or just a deep sand bed in general, will start to colonize that good bacteria that we want, okay? That anaerobic bacteria, and that will start to colonize deep in amongst that sand, and that's going to help take down our nitrate in the end as well, but that's going to take some time to do. So but as we are at the moment, just leave it. Don't even worry about getting your test kits out now. It's only been a few days. I normally start doing my tests after a couple of weeks, get the test kits out, otherwise you're just going to, we know the ammonia is going to be up because of this. This is rotting away, so it's going to be producing ammonia, okay? So there's no point going running around buying test kits, doing tests every 5 minutes just to see if it's gone up and trying to rush it to think, is it ready? I see there's so much on YouTube, and even at my local pet shop, people are coming in going, here's all my vials, I got this one here, I got that one there, that one's saying this, that one's saying that, this one's saying this, can I have fish in there yet? And they're all excited, and I can't blame them, because when it's a first time aquarist, especially where there's kids involved, you know, they want everything ASAP, like everything in the world today. You know, they want it now. They want to click their fingers and have it. But keeping creatures is something that you have to be patient with. It's an imperative stage. Otherwise, you're just harming something, okay? It's just like you trying to just stick your head underwater and try and breathe. It wouldn't take long before you died. Same thing applies. You know, it's these things need to be right. You need to be in the right environment. I can't stress that enough. People kill millions and millions of fish every single year, billions of fish probably every year, through not getting this stage quite right, okay? And it is the most important stage. This is only a tiny little tank, little sponge filters. We're only going to put little things in here, okay? They're only going to be shrimp in here, nothing else. And but if you was to put fish in there, you could only put maybe two or three fish in there, and that would be it for the size of the tank, okay? You've got to get all these little things worked out right. How many fish per gallon you can put in, the size of the fish, the size of the tank, lots of little things, lots of little equations there you got to work out, and before you start keeping something. It's not like just grabbing a fish, going down your local shop, and this is a classic mistake people make as well when cycling tanks, is they go down to the shop, they think their tank's cycled, or it has cycled, okay? Then what they do is they'll go down the shop and they'll buy 20 fish. Put them all in the tank in one go. The tank will look absolutely lovely. They'll be so happy. And then they'll go in, they'll make themselves some food, they'll come back out, everything will look great again. Do that for a couple of days, and then suddenly you can see white spot. Oh no, not white spot. Then you're off to buy stuff for that. Then you're off to buy stuff for this. And it's just this cycle then of you going back to the shops, spending money to buy different treatments for different ailments which you've got because you've added too many fish too quickly, okay? And now what I do, and a rule of thumb that I've always followed, okay, is if you're going to put a species of fish in that you want, say tetras, and you've got a certain amount of tank, certain amount of space, put in a little shoal of tetras. That's okay because they're tiny little fish, minimal waste, okay? And those like to be in a school. So if you put them in, that's fine in a bigger tank, but obviously work out your gallonage for your size of your fish, how many you want in there. But don't go and just put get a tank like that and go and fire about 6 goldfish in it, because the ammonia is just going to spike. The filter can't handle the amount of ammonia which is being produced by the fish, because fish like goldfish produced a lot of waste, and they're one of the most killed fish in the world, I think, because everyone starts off with goldfish and things like that. And they wonder why their fish is dead. They say, oh, but my tank was cycled. But they're producing too much ammonia out of their waste, okay, for that little filter to handle. And then your ammonia will spike, the fish get sick, and then the fish die, okay? And that's the same old story which has happened since man started keeping things in tanks. It's just sadly, it's just one of them things. Patience is a key, kids, if you're watching, okay, and adults alike. Everybody wants to go a tank. When I was keeping corals and coral reef tanks, where I'd have a tank set up like this, we're going to go through all this on another video. When I get my coral room built up, we're going to do all this kind of stuff, and I'm going to take you on how to set up coral tanks properly and all that stuff, because that's another pitfall where people make huge mistakes in marine systems as well. But I won't go there, because that's another ball game altogether. Similar but a different ball game. So I thought that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it a short one on this today. I think the video is running around 10 minutes, 10 or 11 minutes, but it's just a little heads up on what's happening, okay, so far, for all you little keen people out there who love to keep knowing and keep in the loop. I just want to keep you all in the loop with what's going on. As you can see, the little subwasatang trees are doing really well. I know a few of you have asked me how to pronounce that. I'm always going to say subwasatang. I say it how it's spelt. I know it's subwasatang or something like that in German, but it's just an old habit with me, and it's just the way it's spelt. And but they're looking okay. I've got a bit of Java moss on the top there, doing okay. And obviously we're not going to get any growth as yet, but another good thing with that rotting down in here, that's going to be producing waste, which is in turn going to feed your plants, okay? So your plants are going to be starting to absorb that ammonia, and that nitrite isn't going to harm your plants. That nitrate, the nitrite is actually going to benefit those, okay? Because they're going to feed on that. And that's all good stuff. And the plants will thrive on that and they'll grow. So you started off with a nice little, well, the way I look at it is you've got a beautiful tank already set up. If you've done it like this, or the way your decor, how you want yours to be, like I said, it's a personal taste. You've got something nice to look at. And you can picture now, well, this is how I do it. I picture now what I'm going to keep. Okay, if I'm going to keep cherries, or I'm going to keep sakuras, or I'm going to keep mazuras, you know, what I'm going to put in there. I know it's not, you know, obviously not mazuras and things, it's different parameters again, but this is a Neocaridina setup. Okay, this is for your cherry shrimps, your pumpkin shrimps, because it's Halloween, and all them little beautiful little creatures that we can see down in our local little fish shops. Or we can buy online, guys. Don't forget eBay. You can get some people that will send them to you in the post with little heat packs if you're in the UK, or not sure if they do it elsewhere, but I know in the UK you can get them sent to your door, and there's lots of reputable people out there which I've got them from over the years, which are really, really helpful. And send them, and if you're lucky they might chuck a few extra in there, or a couple of extra shrimp in there for you, and they always do you a good deal, because a lot of these are private little breeders, sort of like myself really, and it's nice to help these guys out as well as your local fish shops as well. Don't neglect them, because they're all there to do us a service. I know some of them are expensive, but if you can get things nice and cheap. A couple of other things I was going to say as well on the last video about the stones and collecting, and a couple of you have picked me up on it, and you are correct. Always make sure that you're allowed to take stone, sand and different substrates from different areas, from your local councils and places like that. Always make sure you're allowed to take them first before you do it, because you could get caught and you could get fined. Okay, it's not something that I say just go out and do. I shouldn't have said that, actually. You know, it's a bit wrong on me really. I just get excited, and because I've always done it. You know, I've always foraged. I come from a little island back in the Channel Islands, as many of you know, originally, and one of the Channel Islands, which I go back to every year. And over there you can just go down. I used to make loads of little marine tanks out of, and I used to take the weed from the beaches and the sand and everything else, and I've just programmed to do it. But obviously moving to the UK, there is different laws, rules and regulations which we've got to follow, so you must adhere to those, and make sure you're allowed to take things from the wild, otherwise you could get in a little bit of trouble. And another thing I was going to say, guys, about getting tanks as well, be super careful when you're buying second-hand tanks for copper, because a lot of these little tanks that people have had things in before have had the problems that we've just discussed. And with the corners, with the silicone, black silicone, you're not going to tell, but with a clear silicone tank, If you see a tank and you want to keep shrimp in it, and that tank and the silicone has been dyed blue, a light blue around the outside, don't worry about it, because it's been treated with copper, and copper, if you didn't know, is super lethal to shrimp, and it will kill them, okay, in minute traces. So you don't really want to be buying that little tank. Make sure that silicone seal is nice and clean, clear, and that'll give you a bit of a head start on a successful shrimp tank. Another thing as well is plants. Now when you're buying plants from eBay, places like this, from garden centres, be careful, because sometimes they're treated with I'll get it into my head in a minute. They'll treat all their plants, okay, for snails, and that is a copper medication as well, okay, and that kills off all the snails and things on there, but and again it's copper and it's lethal to shrimp, so you've got to be careful. That's why when I put any plants into a shrimp tank, I always do the old in vitro stuff, which is the little tiny pots which you get, the ones you see me breed my micro worms in. If you look on eBay, there's plenty of places selling them, and basically what it is, it's a little tiny pot, and it's got gel in it with a little lid. You'll see the little picture on the back with the plant, what it's going to look like, and there's a little micro colony of it in the pot, okay, and it's all in there. That has been completely snail and bug free, because it's been grown in the gel from scratch, and little cuttings and things, and they are snail free, and they guarantee them snail free as well, and copper free. That's the main thing, okay. All these were all from little pots. That was from a little pot as well. But if you're going to go and buy these big bunches of cheap plants from eBay, where it's say X amount for £12, and putting them in your tank, they could contain copper, okay, which has been sucked into the plants through their root systems, and it could be released into the water, so you've got to be really careful there as well. I don't suggest you go buying those types of plants for a shrimp tank. Fish tanks, fine, absolutely go for it, go for your life there, buy as many as you like, but where shrimp are concerned, they're very, very fragile little creatures, and you can kill them off quite easily. And I see a lot of people saying, oh, my shrimp are dying, can't understand why. Think back where you got your plants from, okay, think where you got your tank from, take all these little things into consideration first before you start having a tank, and then you'll have a successful little tank. I know this tank has never had copper in it. I know the plants have never seen copper. I know those trees that we got have never seen copper. They've been boiled, so everything in here is copper free, sterile before we put it in there. The sand was boiled, the rocks have been scrubbed and put in boiling water and left to cool down for a while. So we know we got a good head start on this tank. So there you go, there's a little heads up for you. I think on Sunday's video, I think what I'll do is, just to start it off, I'll do a little test. We'll get the test kits out on Sunday. I know I said I normally leave it for a couple of weeks, but it'll keep you guys in the loop and teach you how to test things and test your water if you're not familiar with testing your water. Anyway guys, have a super safe Halloween tonight. Make sure you kids are safe. Don't do anything silly like throwing eggs at people, and enjoy yourselves. Have a great time, have great parties, and as always, you're all stars. Love you loads, take care, and I'll see you on Sunday for another update on this tank. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.